What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another GGF mod build video, and today I'll be going over this recent build I did in the Cougar Omnyx chassis. Now, this case was a little bit different than what we've seen in the past in terms of the orientation. All the IO shoots straight down. Now, if you are interested in this case, I did a full review. I did a full time-lapse video, and I'll throw that in the description down below with the links for those, so you can check that out. Now, I do want to do a bit of a mod build video on this because, as I said earlier, this case is a little bit different. And some of the, I'll say the cosmetic and the other features I did to it, like the cover panels might be hard to see. Cover panel at the front, the top, and the rear. Now, Cougar do offer aesthetic panels you can purchase. You can purchase either 1, 2, or 3. Depending on how you have the case orientated on your desk, you probably don't need all 3. You may not see the top, you may not see one of the back sides. But I went it upon myself to try and create my own because I couldn't find theirs available, and I still don't even know if theirs are available. So I'll go over this video on some of the timbers I used. I made some fabric ones. I made some vinyl wrapped ones. This is on the black model of the case because I did a black build as well. And then another material I found was a wood veneer, but it's a 3M stick-on, which is the one I've done here. I was able to go straight over the stock material and just use a Stanley knife or just a blade to cut it. So other things I'll go over all the hardware if anyone's interested in some of the specs on this. The copper tubing as well. I'll probably go over each topic pretty quickly because I don't want these to go on for 20-30 minutes because I could literally talk all day about these builds. The copper tubing I used, which is this stuff here, this looks really, really rough, but once you polish it up and all that, it'll look really nice like in the build. And I think I'll wrap it up with the tubing underneath that ties it all up. So starting off with the hardware, I used the Intel 285K. You might be wondering why I went with Intel. I went with that because I really liked this white NZXT board. This is the N9Z890. The main reason was it is easy to paint. It could be pulled apart. The covers could come off, and as you can see, I found a copper spray paint. I'll actually get a bit of a B-roll on that. I don't have it on me. I forgot to grab it, but I found a really nice copper spray paint that looks really good. Once you spray your parts and all that, I always prime it with any standard metal or aluminum primer. Get that done, paint it, and it looks really nice. So I went with that board, just something a little bit different using an NZXT board. It was all white. It does look silver by stock, so obviously changing it to copper will match this theme. So the NZXT board, ROG RTX 4090 OC, you might be running, well, where's the 5090? No, 50 series. Well, I did this build quite a while ago. It was delayed with the launch of the review. I explained all that. So 50 series blocks were very, very rare. Not many were out. No one was really making them. So my next choice was the 4090. And of course, this CORSAIR block is the 4090 matching block for that. And I have painted that white. And then I did some copper aesthetics with that same paint. And then on the back side, I replicated the stock CORSAIR pattern with a copper themed pattern. That's why I went down with the route. So sometimes I can't always use the latest and greatest because sometimes there may not be a block for it, or it might not match the theme appropriately. And mind you, 4090 is still no slouch. It's still a really good GPU. CORSAIR Dominator Titanium, which is this one here. I went with the fin accessory kit. So what you do is you purchase that in packs of 2 or 4, depending on how many. I needed 2 2s to get the 4. You unscrew each end, the RGB bank that's on it by default, pull that out, and then you pop this one in. And by default, it's already copper. So that's why I went with that route. You can get them in either the black kit or the white kit. Obviously, I went the white kit, and it matches this theme really nice. You don't have to worry about RGB on the memory because you've actually removed the RGB module that comes on the memory. CORSAIR fans, iCUE link the iCUE LX. I really wanted to try the reverse blade. Finally, CORSAIR are getting into reverse blade. So I got 140s on each side, left and right. They are both blowing in, so they're the reverse blade. So you get no ugly frame on the fan. And then the rears are your standard normal flow throwing out. And that's how I've done this chassis. There's quite a few options you can do it. You can either go straight through this way, straight through this way. You could go in the back at the top here, out one side. But for me, I decided to go in each side and then out the rear. So it's got a few nifty ways you can do the airflow in this chassis. PSU is a Seasonic Focus GX1000 white. Nice little unit in the back there. Cable mod sleeve cables. Only thing I didn't like in this build was I only had this cable set. I have a lot of Seasonic cable sets, but unfortunately all my combs were in silver. For the cable combs, I wish I just had some standard ones with white. I think the silver combs might be throwing off the build because obviously I went with the white and copper not a white, copper, and silver. I think silver in the mix is throwing it off a little bit. Now, for the water cooling, the CORSAIR XC7, which is the CPU block I mentioned in a previous video, I do like these. They're nice and clean, and then you get that display in the middle, customize whatever you want. I mentioned the 4090, that's a Strix tough block for that one. And then the radiators, we have two XR5 280s, 280 there, 280 here, slim. So I actually went down the route of, let me see if I can take this off, of putting the radiator in the middle section here, just so you don't see it, because sometimes radiators are ugly. If you have the fans on the outside, you put this mesh cover back on, yeah, you're gonna see a bit of RGB glow from the outside, but then you're gonna see the messy radiator on the inside unless you do a push-pull. But then again, you would have had to bulk it out even further in the chassis, and you might be limited on clearances inside. So slim rads fit inside, one there, then you don't see the messy radiator, and you can see the fans on the inside of the chassis. And then it's an XR5 360, so another slim on the rear. I could have gone with a thick, but I didn't think I needed to. Like, these CPUs don't run extremely hot. 49 is not too bad. We got 3 rads in here, 2 280s, a 360 all slim, and that's enough. But in my review, I did state you can fit a thicker radiator on that rear if you want. There is room for that. The coolant is also CORSAIR clear. It's just standard clear coolant. I was gonna say clear tubing. It is standard clear coolant because I didn't think we needed a color for this, and the fact that you can't see anything, the only thing is a little bit on the window on the GPU block and then a bit on the rear for the pump res combo. So I didn't think we really needed a white, or I wouldn't even risk trying to match a copper looking coolant because I think it would just ruin it. And then we have a Bitspower DDC pump res combo around the rear. A lot of my builds you might be running, why I never show off a pump res combo. I think there's a time when a build is sort of screaming for it, and there's a time where a build is, let's just throw it around the back, out of sight where we don't see it, because I think it would have ruined the whole look. If I was to stand something up here, stand something here, even if I replaced one of these side fan rad units here with like an FLT flat res combo down the side, it would have ruined the symmetricalness, if that's even a word, of the build, because you would have had a rad here and then you would have had a completely different looking pump res combo on the side here. So that's why I wanted to keep the symmetrical look with the fans and the rads on either side, and then throw around the back of the pump res combo, which fits in there nicely next to the power supply. I was going to talk about the custom panels first, but let's do the tubing while I'm talking about all the water cooling gear, because this ties into it. So this tubing here, it's kind of hard to get this raw copper tubing. If you go to your hardware store, it's going to probably be in 13 mil, so it's going to be in imperial, so it's not going to be metric. Now, a lot of water cooling gear is in metric, so you got 12 mil, 14 mil, 16 mil. Hardware stores normally do like 1/2 inch and all that. I know AlphaCool do 13 mil, so if you can get that, you might have to go AlphaCool fittings, but I did manage to find some off Amazon that does 12 and 14. This is 12 here. I used 14 here. I don't have much of my 14 left. I do need to pick some more up. So I always have these lengths on hand, like 4 or 5 sticks ready to go. This is about the longest I can get it. I wish I could get it in a much longer length, and you can bend this. I've done a build before where I bent it. It came out pretty good, but for this build, I wanted to keep it clean and go just straight down into this basement area here where all your cables go. So to cut this, standard with normal hard tube, you just used the cutter that you just, pipe cutter, you just put it on, spin it around a few times, and then it snaps off. You can use like a hacksaw or something like that, but 100% get one of those pipe cutters. It's much, much easier. And that's pretty much it. You just got to deburr the ends and make sure they're not sharp at all. I don't normally use a deburrer. They work better on acrylic or the PETG. I use a file. A file gets it much, much more of an angle. The deburrers just sort of stick in, and it's not strong enough for this type of material unless you get one designed for this type of material, of course. Now, you might be wondering, well, this looks pretty dirty. That's because I've had this sitting on a shelf. The copper does oxidize, copper in blocks. Whenever air gets to it, obviously air is going to get it no matter what, especially down in this basement. It's going to eventually get to it, but I can probably just the more you rub it like this, it probably looks a bit weird on film, but if you just rub this like this, even just with like a bit of water or something, it'll clean it up. Obviously, I use more than that. I use some chemicals. I use some like Brasso copper polish, but what I actually did first is I used a few different grit sandpaper. I think I start off with like 600, depending on how bad it is. Some of these have some pretty big gouges out of them. That's just how they come. They don't expect you to use this stuff really fine like this where it's meant to look good. You're meant to use this for like, I don't know, industrial stuff for your housing, plumbing, stuff like that. So I sanded down 600, 1200. I think I went all the way to 5,000, 7,000. Yes, you can get that stuff. Sandpaper off Amazon, really fine grit. Then I used a metal polish, a copper polish, and cleaned it up really nicely till you get this super, super shine. Now, the next step you can do a matte clear coat, which I've done before on some builds. I'll throw up a B-roll from the difference between this build. This has no clear coat, no nothing, just the gloss from the finish that's finished it by polishing it. And then you can put a matte clear coat. You can put a gloss clear coat if you live in, I don't know, like a dirty environment where it's going to oxidize pretty quickly. But I've had this build probably up and made sitting here for 2 months now. And these look pretty much exactly how they were. It's just these ones here have been sitting on the shelf for like a couple of years. And that's when oxidization really sets in. So that's why these look clean. But yeah, the matte clear coat will just protect it from the air. It'll stop it from oxidizing. I don't think it stops at 100%. It just stops it oxidizing faster. And then you could go with a clear or a gloss. I do like the matte one, but this one I decided to go with just a raw finish on how it finished. And that's how that is done. And then that just connects down the bottom. I'll get a shot of how that looks underneath. If you rock it like this, you can see how that's done. I just went the shortest route possible. Obviously, I'm not going to use this build long term. So I literally just connected the dots. So with the flow of the loop, I went, say this one went to this one, then this one went to this rad, then that rad went back there, and then it connected back to the pump raise combo. Obviously, if you're going to use it full time, you don't want to block things like any ports on your motherboard if you're running a tube underneath, and then you don't want to block any ports on your video card, and then just soft tubing for that. At the bottom for the pump raise combo, soft tubing goes down from that, and then the rest of it was just standard clear hard tubing. I was not going to waste this nice copper tubing on the bottom basement here, which you can't even see, just standard clear tubing. Now moving on to the custom panels, which I spoke a little bit about earlier. So Cougar are meant to be offering these panels. I haven't seen them. I don't know where they are. Different type of timbers, different graphics, like a frosted glass one. I don't know what's going on with them. I haven't been able to find them. So I started to make my own. These are all the panels from the black chassis because I got the black and the white. So the black one has been pulled apart, and these are the panels I've been playing around with. So obviously vinyl is pretty simple. These also just all clip in and clip off by pushing clip, so nothing special. Obviously, if you're doing vinyl, clean it up, lay your vinyl as you don't just unstick your whole vinyl, like don't separate it all and then just plonk this upside down on the vinyl because you'll get 100 bubbles. You need to actually apply the vinyl properly. I don't use one of the sort of scraper or like the felt tools you're meant to use. I just use a cloth. As I'm peeling it as I go, I just keep on going along until it's all done. Then you can flip this upside down. I normally get a heat gun and just do the edges a bit before I cut it. Make sure the edges are all nicely done. Flip it upside down, use a sharp knife and just go around all the edges, and that's it. That is done. So when I did the black build, I did this gold one. Obviously this gold one would look a bit weird on here, but this is for the black build I did, which had a bit of a gold theme to it. And you can see that looks pretty simple. Cost of a vinyl roll, $5–10 bucks. Away you go. You can do all 3 panels in gold. Away you go. The next thing I tried, which is what I actually did in the final black build, which is in the time-lapse video, is I went down the route of trying a fabric. Now, a lot of cases are coming out with, I wouldn't say fabric options, but some fabric accents. Do they really do anything? No, because this is not really breathable. I wouldn't use this as like a mesh intake. It doesn't really breathe at all. So you can pick up some timber like this. I wouldn't even go down the route of using anything this fancy. This is like different veneered timbers like an oak, mahogany, pine and all that, because you are just covering it up. I just had these all ready from another project that I use these, and these are roughly the same thickness because you're going to want something in the same thickness as what is already on the case, because when you're replacing these ones, you don't want it to be either too thick or not thick enough. So this one's pretty simple, just traced around the stock one. So say I was using, that's this one, traced around this one, cut out this rectangle. So I had this bit in timber, which was replicated. And then I just used 3mm staples. I have a bit of a staple gun, just a hand one, and just went around with some fabric. Now it's pretty rough on the backside because this was just a test and a trial to see if it worked. Staple it along, It's basically just like doing upholstery. If you've ever done upholstery before, it's pretty simple. And then I just use some double-sided tape, and then that just sticks on, whether it sticks on the top, sticks on the front, sticks on the side. Now the fabric I used, I've got some over here. I picked it up in white, black, and gold. Now if you're familiar with those fractal design cases that started to use mesh, this is similar. I actually went and got a lot of different types of fabric off Amazon because it's very hard to know what you're going to get until it arrives. Things look a lot different, and this one actually came out pretty cool. It's kind of like a honeycomb design, and I might actually use this in some other projects where I put fabric on something else, but I'll put the links to all of these. It was pretty cheap. This is like a huge amount here. This is basically like a bed sheet worth of stuff. So that was pretty fun to do that. I'll get some B-rolls of how it looked on the black build. It actually looks like pretty much professionally done, and it looks how the case would actually come. Then another option you could do, you could actually just use like the raw timber. I'll put the links to these sheets up as well because they come in like a 4 or 6 pack. They're not much, 30, 40 bucks. And then you can just put these straight on if you want. You could have like a nice, this looks like a red oak or something like that. That'll look pretty sweet depending on your theme. I really didn't know which one was going to go good with the copper. I didn't know if I should have gone with like the red oak with that, but I think that might have just conflicted it a little bit too much. Now the last option is what I went with this one. That was the easiest, was this. This is a massive 3M roll of the veneer. I'm just going to show this once. So this is the sticky side. It's really hard because it's rolled up like this, and then these come in all different types, and this is just a pine. And once you peel this off, you can peel it off. So it's basically like vinyl, thick vinyl, but it is actual wood. So it's similar to this, whereas this is engineered wood in the middle. It's got a very fine veneer on each side, and that's how you get this look. This down the side here is exactly the same, but it doesn't have the engineered wood in the middle. It's just the sticky veneer. And what I did is I just cut a square bit out a little bit larger than the actual panel that I wanted to. That one you can just stick on because you're not going to get bubbles because it's actually a thicker bit of material. It's actual wood. You can stick that on, and then I just got my knife and just went around the outsides, and that was it. I don't know why I haven't just taken these off because they do come straight off. I forgot. So yeah, so that's it there. You can see a little bit of the white because that is the stock one that I just stuck it on. And these have been on here for 2 months, and these have not even budged one little bit. So that's just one idea for getting it stuck on. And I think this way is probably the easiest out of them all, is to go with that stick on, and you can get them in all different colors. Dark wood, if you've got the black model, you can go with the much dark wood, you can go with the light wood, and so on. But that's basically custom panels, the vinyl, the fabric, the wood, or the stick on wood. So there's the 4 options there, and I'll definitely play around with these in the future. If there's any motherboards that come out in the future, like wood grain motherboards, it'd be good to design that or implement this in that type of scenario. Any graphics cards, I know EK had their lineup of wood fittings back in the day, wood water blocks. Don't think we're going to see more wood from them for a while, but who knows, anything could happen in the future. But I think that is pretty much it. Custom panels, tube routing underneath I covered, and the copper tubing as well. But I'll put links to all of this stuff in the description as well. But nothing too crazy, just a clean, I would say to me, simple, nice looking build. Something that looks really good on your desk, and it's nice to look at on a daily basis. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.